And to help us make sense of it all, we have none other than Mr. Eddy Kimani, who is not only an actor, he is a journalist, a mental health campaigner, and a media consultant. Eddy, karibu sana.
Glad to be here.
Yeah,
We're
good to
Glad
see
be
you.
here.
You know, the first time I met Eddy, I don't know if you can remember, I met you at a friend's house, the late David Ohingo, in
Yeah.
Westlands, just down the road at Soho's. And I was asking you about a mutual friend who was in the room. His name was Charles Mulingi. And we were wondering where he is. So if Charles is listening, hit us up, Charles. So Eddy, you know,
I met him, but he didn't know he met me. I'd met him on my screen.
All right.
I would see him on TV.
All right.
Nice to meet you now, one-on-one.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so Eddy, but just before you tell us who Eddy is to the Spice family, you know, mental health illnesses, conversations a lot of us don't have, especially as men, all right? And before we go all the way there, this is the lovely Barbara Mbaka in Bahala.
The Duchess of Ikolomani.
Oh, the Duchess of Ikolomani.
Duchess of Ikolomani.
Of Ikolomani. And the gentleman to my right is Emmanuel.
Duke of?
No, not the Duke.
Wanna be Duke of Luandeti.
Yes. But his name is Emmanuel Nkisiangani, and obviously mine is Eric Omondi.
Yes.
We make up the adults in the room, a fantastic show that brings to the fore all very difficult conversations that a lot of Kenyans are not.
Much needed conversation, I must say.
Absolutely.
And,
And
out of
we
the
are-
box
Yes.
thinking, and glad to have such a show, actually.
Absolutely. And the fourth person that makes the team is a person who normally sits here. His and her name is Msikilizaji.
Msikilizaji.
Yeah, so it's the four of us plus you. We make the adults in the room. So karibu
Fantastic.
sana.
Thank you.
So
Glad to be
who
here.
is Eddy Kimani?
Well, I find it hard sometimes to just pin it down on one thing, especially at this juncture in my life.
Yes.
And Eddy Kimani is a 41-year-old Jama, born and raised in Nakuru. And right now, just trying to do his thing, trying to be part of this amazing jigsaw that life is all about.
Yes.
And he's just trying to make the world a better place by taking a step at a time, either in my own life and together, holding hands with many other people as we look at how to put this puzzle of life together. Yeah, that's where I am right now. That's who Eddy is right now. As you'd mentioned, yes, a mental health campaigner. Found myself in that space after sharing a story about my life and the dark season that I went through. And that's where it has brought me to this point. And I'm really honored to have been invited here to engage in this very, very, very important conversation, and that is mental health, and more importantly, to the men. Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Yeah, just to start it off for someone who's, because I came across mental health on a serious note when I read about there's a guy called Charlemagne the God. He calls himself Charlemagne the God. He's a presenter with the Breakfast Club, and he wrote a book called Shook One. So he in that book
From the US, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
from the US. He's
Yes.
the host of the Breakfast Club.
A very big personality.
Yes,
Yeah.
a very big personality, which made it interesting because this very huge personality came out and started talking about the struggle he's going through. Because sometimes you check these guys out on Instagram and, you know, the glam. You're like, this guy, you know, he has it all together. So that is my first serious encounter with the topic of mental health. So I don't know if you can very quickly explain to someone who's never come across these two words together, especially in the light of, because I remember when I was growing up, you know, you'd say this guy is mental. You know, the guys would walk, you know, dirty clothes in the street. The dog would start barking.
Yes.
I'm a cheesy.
Yeah, I'm a cheesy. That would be.
Ametuacha.
And you think it's
Huyu jamaa
about
amefiat.
case.
Huyu jamaa amefiat.
And
So-
little did we know that we're just ingraining this mindset of the understanding of that,
Yes.
that
Yes.
simple
So,
word.
so to a layman, how would you describe those two words together, mental health?
Mental health, and speaking as a mental health campaigner, I would like also just clarify, I'm not a profession. I'm not a... It's just I'm coming from the point of a lived experience, and that's one thing I would always like establishing. Mental health, of course, mental health is when you have all your faculties together. You've got good health, you've got everything, and the opposite of that, of course, is mental illness. And as the World Health Organization has aptly put it, there is no health without mental health. So basically, mental health is what really puts together our being,
Our state of being.
our state of being, our focus, our general health. And it's quite sad that has really been thrown into various understandings, especially over the years. And I'm glad this conversation is happening right now, because it's happening at a time when people need to understand a little bit more what it is when I say, I want to go and see a specialist. I want to go and see a psychiatrist. I want to go and see a psychologist without being judged and without being looked at as there's something really wrong, or you're not worthy of being part of the society. And as you said,
Or it's not our thing.
It's not our
we
thing.
don't do that.
So mental health definitely is what I would look at, what we need. We deserve to have it at all times. Unfortunately, as you also mentioned in your intro, mental health or illness comes about when you do not have or you're depressed, you've got anxiety. It goes, there are about 200 levels of symptoms of mental illnesses. And depression and anxiety are the ones that we get to experience mostly. Schizophrenia is part of it, of course. All this part of what mental illness is all about. But mental health, yes, that is just being in the right state of mind. Yes.
So mental health, Barbara, before you ask, is not... is it a destination, or it's a journey that you'll be on continuously?
It's a journey. Once you are aware that this is what you're supposed, the status where you're supposed to be at in your life, it's a continuous journey. And it's a really a great time to be discussing this, because it had not been part of the conversation as we looked after our physical health.
Yes.
We went to the gym. We go to the gym and take care of our physical health. Unfortunately, we grow up in an environment where we are taught, wash your hands before you eat. Wash your hands when you leave the toilet. But we're not taught how to take care of our mental fitness,
yes.
our mental hygiene.
Yes.
So we are now in a space where we are trying to embrace and understand mental health. Yeah, it might have been, of course, psychologists and psychiatrists have been there for eons, of course, delivering the best service possible. And now is when us as common Mwananchis, as people who it's affecting, are beginning to understand the importance of it. Yes.
I like what you've said. We've been taught how to clean our hands. We've been told to do this after going to the toilet, going to the bathroom, or before we eat. So how are you doing? Or are you playing a role in teaching men, especially since today we're talking about mental health?
Exactly.
What role are you playing in the society right now? Because you said you're a campaigner. So what are you teaching us, or what are you telling these men about mental health?
Well, I would not be sitting here if I had not gone through the dark season. I like calling it a dark season because I think life is all about phases. And my phase at that time was a very dark one, which is between late 2014 towards 2017, where a lot of things around my life collapsed. My marriage, myself, I got into depression, I got sick, I got into debt, my job came to an end. So it was a combination of many things that contributed to that very dark season. So it happened to be that I was asked to talk about my life at Engage Kenya, which is a very important platform when it comes to us as human beings sharing our stories. And I really applaud the Engage platform, because it's a unique event that brings together people to share their stories. Now, of course, after that talk, I found myself in this space that I needed to do something about what I learned. How do I use these lessons? How do I make my journey worthwhile? Because
The
right
3
now,
years now.
the 3 years. Yeah.
Yes.
After that, now I shared my life in that video. It's on YouTube.
I have seen
Yes,
it.
yeah.
So that is what initiated me into this space where I thought, hey, wait a minute. You learned so many lessons. Because after the talk, I had so many messages, texts, WhatsApp, Facebook, and any other platform I would imagine, people asking me or congratulating me, but more importantly, reaching out. Hey, Eddy, I'm going through... By the way, my story is not unique. it is not unique in any particular way.
It's just that,
that I was given
people
a
don't
platform.
speak out.
Yeah, I was given. People do. It's just that I was given a higher platform to share my life. So what happened is that the feedback I got me into this space now where people were reaching out for help. Eddie, I'm going through this. I'm going through the same situation you're going through, and I need help. So it got me thinking, why don't I purpose and be deliberate about sharing my lessons and become a lived experience example and share my story at the same time, making that one man out there who's given up, who's lost hope, realize that it's possible to actually pick up yourself again when you fall down.
All right, Eddie, you're gonna share more when we come back, and one of the things that I want you to do in summary is you're gonna just share your story a little, so that people can just get snippets of that amazing story. 94.4 Spice FM. We are in studio with our special guest Eddy Kimani. We're talking about men and mental health.
I went there with my own ideas of what it was and how I think I should change. Of course, I went to the myriad of ideas, and of course it didn't turn out that way. So I had to now, of course, embrace the fact that I've gotten into this new environment, so I won't quit, because it was not as easy from the beginning. So anyway, I had to leave my family in Nairobi as I went to settle there. Unfortunately, they didn't move with me. And then I got into the system, setting up the department and getting to learn politics from the ground. And that is being a county politics, Nakuru is a hotbed.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was really baptism by fire for me. Yeah, but gratefully enough, I managed to do that. I set up the office, had a nice team around me. We did what we had to do for the county government and the governor at the time, who really gave me a lot of support, especially in setting it up and just making it easy for me, because he knew I was coming from this different type of environment. But back onto my life here now, it meant a lot of adjusting. You're no longer on people's lips. You're no longer in front of people in their TV screens. You're no longer on
so
people's...
they forget you very fast.
You're no longer on people's minds when they want to do, as you say, like the voiceovers. Because I doubled on that a lot as a side gig. So a lot of things started falling off. My pay was not the same as I was getting at the station I was at the time. And then here I am with a new challenge in front of me. So I made decisions which did not go the right way with me. Number one, I failed my marriage, being away from my family. I got into debt because I was trying to supplement. You've been getting this kind of amount of money
Now
here.
your income
Is changed. So you're looking at, okay, let me try and do other things. So in the middle of that, you've got into loans, you've got into SACCO, and of course, working in public service, getting access to such facilities was very easy. But I made wrong decisions, wrong business decisions. That's why I got into debt. I got distracted. That's why my marriage collapsed. I let down my fatherhood responsibilities, being away. So it was really a collapse of everything. And then at the middle of it, I got something called Bell's palsy, which is a nervous issue that affects your one side of your face. So one side of my face is currently not as... So all that put together,
everything just came.
It just came tumbling down. Yeah. So I don't know how I got through it. But I think one is, of course, by the grace of God. Two, having one or two friends who urged me on. Three, the hope that I've come this far and I even don't understand how I got into this mess. And then four was going back home, which was the decision I made to sort of encompass everything and just put it all out there for me of how bad things were.
And I read you said you went back home and you told your mother that you need her to support you.
I told her I failed. I realized at that time I needed to be very honest with myself with the things that I'd done. And I'd done them either out of ignorance, of course, ego was part of it. Again, making wrong decisions was like any other man would do. You'd make wrong decisions from time to time in life, but I didn't have the tools to deal with. I did not even know there were
Or
tools
to
to deal
mend-
with that,
mend
to
the-
mend that. So
yeah.
I just wallowed in my space that I got into.
94.4 Spice FM. The conversation is just beginning. We are in studio with Eddy Kimani and we're discussing men and mental health. This one is a big one. It is a big one. It is a big one. You cannot miss this one. And you cannot consume this information alone, man. And before we get back to our conversation, I want to share something which is equally big. StarTimes offers you a unique festive offer, and it is Christmas Plus with StarTimes. StarTimes wamesema Christmas will not end in December. They'll push it all the way to January. If you pay your monthly subscription right now, you get 2 weeks free on a hair bouquet. Gift your family with the StarTimes gift, which is the ultimate gift. And you can get a fully connected StarTimes satellite dish for only 2,999 BAB. Can you imagine they give you 1 shilling back, 2,000? You see, those one bobs are important, Barbara.
For saving.
You know,
for
you
saving.
can accumulate them and then you use them in future.
Yes.
If you don't want that, you can get a decoder and a subscription for only 1,499 BAB. And this is what I need you to do. Take your phone and send an answer to 22277. And this is the question. Which is the one program that you watch on StarTimes that is a true gift to your whole family? Which is the one program? See, Mingi, moja tu.
Moja.
I wish adults in the room was there. They would have
Because
sent
we
that
already
instead.
know the answer for Eric would be telenovela.
Which is the one program, Barbara, that you watch on StarTimes that is a true gift to your whole family. And if you do that, send it to 22277, and you might win yourself, a month subscription. StarTimes.
Enjoy digital life.
Yay. It is 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. The reason I love this job, special guest Eddy. Eddy, the reason I love this job here at the Adults in the Room is we get, like when a guest like you comes, we get to spend quality time together.
Indeed.
I remember I used to listen to some interviews on radio, and no sooner as it starts and then they play 2 advertisements and the guest is gone.
Sikilizaji.
So namsikia tu for 10 minutes. You're like, man, 10
Unasema
minutes.
ulizaliwa wapi? Kericho, asante. Ulisema uliwa lini?
Nilisema.
Haya, huyu alikuwa mtu wetu wa ndani aliyozaliwa Kericho. Asante, tunakuchezea Madilu System.
Man, and then the guy goes, so me, I stay there, I'm hanging. I'm like, what's up?
And comes back after 10 minutes.
Yeah, man.
And you
So-
know those songs were long, 17 minutes. Some
Eddy,
of them.
thank you so much for making all this time. I know it's a sacrifice, and thank you for making that time to come.
I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm really honored you considered this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Conversation.
Now, Eric, you were taking us along very nicely, and
Yes.
we were at the point when Eddy had gone back home,
Yes.
and he told his mom,
That
he has failed.
Yes.
Yeah, he's
so
failed. So did I carry short?
no, you can just
Yeah,
pick it
so
up.
Eddy, one of the I wasn't 39 yet, but it is a very difficult thing for a man to just own up failure.
It's true.
Right?
true.
So all this time,
which is part of the mental health conversation,
Absolutely.
right?
And it's also
Exactly.
difficult for men to ask for help.
yes, very difficult.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So all this time, are you speaking to the madam ama muongeleshani?
Well, it was intermittent because it got into a point where we didn't talk as frequent as we were supposed to. Remember, we have 2 sons.
Yes.
So for obvious reasons, we are supposed to be constantly talking. And a lot of that was to do with my ego and also thinking, as much as I've got these problems, I'll deal with it by myself.
Yeah.
Little did I know I'm just digging my hole deeper and deeper, deeper and deeper, out of ignorance, out of thinking I'm doing the right thing. And why am I thinking I'm doing the right thing? Because I'm the man.
Yes.
That was my thinking at the time.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with you believing you're doing the right thing in life. But sometimes I think when it's not well informed, when it's not well directed, you're bound to really have some kizungumkuti.
Yeah.
Part of that, what
because
they
of
call toxic masculinity.
Masculinity,
Yes.
exactly. Actually, that I was in a very deep state toxic masculinity at the time. Yeah, and it was not. Now I know it wasn't really the best place to be.
I read bits and pieces, and of course heard you speak, and you said that when this job in Nakuru went again belly up, you decided to move to Diani. It reminded me once how I was tired of Nairobi, vitu zilikuwa zimeshikana. So I packed my bag in an SQ I was living in Langata, and I went to try life at the coast. But,
How did that go?
I lasted for 24 hours in Mombasa. Then I came back with the next bus. But I went Surrey to the coast and back. So you went to Diani.
Yes.
And set up base there. And you say this is where you met somebody and the change began happening.
I don't know. The best way of putting that is that my marriage had collapsed. Nakuru job came to a close. Actually, the contract came to a close because a new leadership came in.
Yes.
New leadership, new people.
Yes. And here I am wondering, okay, what do I do?
You had a Kiunjuri moment, eh?
I don't know which moment, if the locust or which other moment. But for me, it was trying to, for the lack of a better way of describing it, trying to look for some element of preservation to try and keep my sanity together. Then that's how I was thinking. So what do I do? And I had to leave. I couldn't go back home. We were separated.
Yes.
And that is something that killed me, but I wasn't admitting to that at the time.
You still have to be stoic.
Yeah. Kifua mbele, jikaze kidynamo. So I said, let me go to the coast. Now, luckily at the time, an engagement that I used to do on an annual basis, because I'm still indulging in motorsports up to now. I'm involved with motorsports in the country. So I get called upon once in a while to do some work for them. And this time, one of the biggest events was happening at the time, and it happened to be, of course, in the coast. So when it ended, I, again, didn't have another place to turn to. And it ended, course of the journey, I just found myself in Ukunda. I packed my bags and I went to Ukunda. I got a small gig there to handle an event that was happening at that time. That is 2017, there was the Diani Beach Festival. And I got it. So I was just taking up responsibilities as I tried to stay afloat. But deep down, what I was doing, I was running away from my problems. I was running away from my responsibilities. Responsibility to myself as Eddy Kimani, and responsibility of trying to mend things back at home, or try to have a proper way of dealing with the problems that I was going through at home. So I ended up in Ukunda.
And even responsibility to your kids.
Yes, and it is a time, I wouldn't wish it for anybody, and if anybody is going through it right now, there's always a way of dealing with it. Now, through that cycle, I ended up now, gigs ran out, I was not doing anything, and one of these days I decided to take a walk. I was very fortunate that I met a couple of people who sort of got wind of what I was going through. Not so, just I think 2 people, and I opened up to them. And that's how I managed to get some place to put my, small place to put my head on. And get something to eat. At the time, still fighting with my demons, which still kept on telling me, you're okay here. You stay here.
Chill.
Away from you. But all I did, I just changed my location, but my problems were still the same. Which is what sometimes we do as men, trying not to deal with the issues at hand. We find ourselves running away from something, but it will always follow you through. So one morning, I decided to take a walk along Ukunda. Really, for anybody, okay, for those, there's that long street going down, because there's Ukunda itself and then there's Diani at the end. I was taking a walk and it was so hot. I decided to pop into a shop that I'd just gotten to. It was a brand new bakery. I just pulled a seat, sat down, and I don't know what I was expecting. I didn't know what I wanted. I just sat down and thinking, let me take a break from this zombiness that I was in at the time. And then this fellow taps me on the shoulder and he tells me, wewe ni Eddy Kimani, eh? Ule jamaa wa TV, huh? Ni wewe? At that time, I was in Ukunda thinking nobody knows me. I was in the same thing I'm telling you guys, you're running away from yourself.
In a hideout.
Yes. So I was in this space in my mind thinking, at least here nobody will know who I am, will not know what I'm going through. Let me deal with my problems by myself. We got talking, and he happened to be a guy who's very... Later on, I came to discover, because we became good friends after that, he made me open up. I ended up sitting there talking to him for almost 3 hours. Talking about him. He listened. He didn't judge me. He didn't point anything at me. He did not say, Eddy, you should have done this. The way like we would normally do.
Like, why did you do that?
Why did you do this? So it became a situation whereby I did not know that was some form of therapy that I was going through. Because what I needed at the time was just to open up without judgment and not to be criticized.
A listening ear.
And a listening ear, which he did. And after those 3-4 hours, he went down and prayed for me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what happens after that is that I sort of started adjusting, and I call it my Damascus moment,
Yes.
because a night before that, I had concluded that I'll take my own life.
Oh,
In
Part
the
of the
little room
reason
I
why
was
you
in.
were walking around.
Yes. And I think what saved me was I think I blacked out or something like that. So I woke up in the morning like, okay, I need to do something about this. I was so convinced I've had enough. I was so convinced I've reached the end. I was so convinced I don't need to go through this anymore. But remember, all this time I'm just talking about me. I'm forgetting this other side that I need also to deal with.
Absolutely.
So this Damascus moment, which up to now we call it that with my friend Peter. His name is Peter Mwakuona. He's a businessman based in Mombasa. The story goes on further, and we become really good friends. And he became a pathway for me to understand what was I doing with my life. And over that period of about 3 to 4 weeks, we just kept on meeting. And he now became my go-to guy. So I found myself always ending up at the bakery, wait for him to open, sit, we talk. I go back to where I was staying, help him close the bakery. And one day, my wife calls me out of the blue. We hadn't spoken for a very long time. And she was traveling, and she needed me to go home and watch the kids. I started fighting again. Why calling now? Why now?
You
Again,
forget your kids.
yeah, at the time that's where I was. And I told Peter about this, and he sort of made me understand what that meant from a religious or from a spiritual point of view. This could be attempts by the bigger force trying to get things back on track. Why don't you just go home and watch over the kids? And I remember I'd not seen the kids for quite a while. And I packed my bags and I went. Crossed the ferry, got to Mombasa, got into a bus. And that was the last time I was in Ukunda.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Because I got home. Of course, it was work, trying to connect with my kids again. I went for actually what she wanted me to do was to attend a school meeting because she traveled. And it was very important
That a parent
attend. Yeah, so after that is when now the journey of rebuilding
began.
Yeah, because by that time I had started coming to my own senses. I had already done a bit of counseling, talking to people to get some help. And my path to sort of get back on my feet began from there. Yeah.
From Peter, from talking to Peter. Yeah.
Our Damascus moment. And one thing that still stands out for us is that we feel that moment was ordained because a month later, after I'd come back to Nairobi, unfortunately, Peter had a very nasty accident on his way from Ukunda back, because he was just operating the bakery in Ukunda and going back to Mombasa, where he lived. So he had an accident, unfortunately, and by the grace of God, he healed out of it. But now he was forced to close the bakery. So we keep on telling ourselves, there's a reason why we were brought together. Because at night or two before our meeting, I was about to end my life. I was about to take it all and go. So when he shut down, it was like I finished the work that I came to do here.
In Ukunda.
I was imagining Peter, that's what he would.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we all went back to our homes, to our families. So it's a very special time that for me still stands out as my biggest win in that very dark season
Which
that
year
I've
was
gone
that?
through. This is now 2018 is when I got back to Nairobi.
Yes.
Alrighty.
Made up with my wife and started the journey of reconciling, and it's still a journey.
Yes.
Yeah, getting to love my kids again and also helping them learn who I am again, because I'd been away from them for a very long time.
94.4 Spice FM. When we come back, I'm going to ask you about crisis. Like as men, sometimes crisis is what jolts us. and if it is necessary to go through crisis, is when you begin to change your mind. We're going to discuss more about that after break. But
Now,
meanwhile,
usually I don't
let's,
do this.
Jam to some R. Kelly, who's not going through a very nice time right now, but I believe he's going to go through it, man. R. Kelly Ignition Remix, bringing us to 45 minutes past 8 o'clock. We'll be back before you can say.
Rumpelstiltskin.
12 minutes to 9 o'clock. We are the adults in the room. We're having a very dope conversation right here in the studio. We're talking about men and mental health. I'm here with the usual suspects, Eric Barbara, with myself, Emmanuel. But we have a special guest, Mr. Eddy Kimani, who's decided to come through and just share his story with us. We're talking about men and mental health, and I hope the brothers are tuned in. I hope I'll hear from you shortly, because the lines are almost open. 0719012600. You have to tell a friend. And Eddy has just narrated the story about how he went to Mombasa. And during the break, Eddy, you shared something that you didn't share earlier about, some of the thoughts you're having in that room, like crazy thoughts which normally wouldn't go through the mind of the regular guy.
Yeah, it's one of those moments you're thrown into when you're down to your boots. You are looking for the easiest way out, because somebody who's going through a mental illness almost feels as if you're caged, as if you're boxed, and your next point of action is to try any way of getting out. And what happens most of the time is it happens the wrong way, and that's why somebody would either die, take their own life, because you're trying to just get out of this space that you're into. So one for me was, I was staying in this little room, and at the time I was wondering, what do I need to do to be able to end this? And being the coastal region, what it is, the weather and everything is mosquito infested, of course. So there's this mosquito net, and the circular one that normally hangs from the thought of how strong is that hook if I decided to take my life. How strong would it be for it to make it a successful attempt, or even, so those are the thoughts you go through, and it has stuck with me because it just happened before my Damascus moment with Peter. Yeah, and that is what really sometimes, at least I'm comfortable now to understand what people go through when it comes to those lonely moments and quiet moments.
I was watching something yesterday. I don't know if you came across it. There's a man who tried to kill himself in the CBD, and it backfired from an electric pole. And I don't know if it was a string or a wire. Then he tried hanging himself and he fell down. And instead of people coming to his rescue, people were dismissing him, some are laughing at him. And I was like, oh my God, Kenyans, this is actually a problem. I think we take for granted certain things.
Yes, and Eddy, sorry I've interrupted you. Maybe you can include the answer with this. Like, what kind of support structures do we need for each other as men? Because you see, we're always hanging out. I remember I went through a similar experience, but not as terrible as yours. I think many people have gone through the point at which you had everything, and then suddenly you have nothing. And you find all these brothers who you used to hang out with are nowhere to be seen. So
they can't even pick your calls anymore.
Yes, in fact they meet each other and say how you're in fun.
Check you manu.
Yes. So what kind of real support structures do we need to build for each other as men?
Well, I would like to say it's a very simple answer, but again, simple things sometimes can be very difficult to embrace. And now, even understanding what that man was trying to do in the middle of the streets, a high street,
yes, it was a
Kenyatta Avenue,
yesterday,
Kimathi Street. I saw the video, so it just tells you to the extent certain men are going through to be able to end whatever they're going through. And what is so unfortunate is that even men right now, even exiting the world, we are doing it in the most gruesome way possible. And it's been reported that men use the harshest means, either jumping from a building, hanging. Now, for him, he didn't have any qualms climbing a light pole in the middle of the street. And certain reports say women actually do it differently. They either take
a
pills.
pills, yes, in their sleep,
or
or mix a juice or something.
Exactly. So is
poison.
that's how bad it is for men when it comes to what they are going through. In terms of support system, how do we do it? My learnings out of this is it's something, if embraced, can actually, I believe it can solve or sort immediate problems that we have as men when it comes to what we are going through. And that's simple as being authentic with each other. Being able to be there. And being there does not mean you need to challenge or direct. Just even listening, like what Peter did for me, I think is the turnaround that helped me to be able to deal with what I was going. A brother just needs to listen to another brother. Being compassionate, being considerate. And that's where we even now have the World Health Organization initiative, which I'm a part of. It's the Quality Rights, Mental Health Quality Rights program, which is meant to help people who have gone through and who are going through mental illnesses to also have their rights to be recognized. Because sometimes we find even the society does not help much when it comes to reaching out to the men who are having challenges. The guy will be ridiculed. You're a man. You're not supposed to be weak. You're not supposed. Yeah, you're not supposed to show us your vulnerability. Men don't cry. Jikaze. Pambana na hali yako. Kaa ngumu. Those are the things that really do not help in the case of answering your question in how men would get help amongst ourselves. And of course, support systems. Women have more support systems, and of course the chamas, the meetups, you're easy with your emotions, and that's why the boy-child conversation right now is at its height right now. The boy-child has and was forgotten. You know, the girl child was empowered, she's free, she's confident, she's doing her thing, taking up top positions that were predominantly held by men. And it's really sad to see how the landscape looks right now when it comes to see how a boy child, men are dealing with their problem, and again how we are helping each other as men to deal with these issues that we are going through on a daily basis.
Eric, you're hanging out with a brother with your brethren at 18, every Friday, and then maybe sometimes you meet on Wednesdays and some random Mondays, and then now all of a sudden when things go awry for you, these guys, because these are your sort of your structure,
boys,
although it's a house of cards,
peeps, boys.
but now
Squad.
they're your squad, but now suddenly when things go belly up, they just vanish. Like that would affect you, man.
No, it does affect you. But again, it's. I think a lot of it comes with the wisdom of hindsight. Now, when I look back, you start thinking, those were not my friends. Like now I feel like I know how to choose better in terms of friendships.
Putting it in a better way, you are now better equipped
Yes.
to deal with, again, in hindsight,
Yes.
which is a big learning from me from that,
Yes.
because a lot of friends fell along the way, and I don't blame them. By the way,
Yes.
I've never took any grudge with the ones who fell along the way in my journey, because they had to make decisions of also how do they deal with
They
this
didn't know
guy.
how to deal with you.
They didn't know how to deal
Yeah.
with me. There's those, of course, who will go and do the full turnaround and, of course, start ridiculing you, belittling you, judging you because of the decisions you've made. And there are those who actually about man-to-man.
So you
Ladies have
can cry.
perfected it in terms of showing what they are going
Yeah.
through. They will not hide it. And
But should I cry away from my kids?
Eddie, I was telling
would
Manuel
you-
once. I don't know
Should
if
I
you
cry in
You're
front
not
of
Superman.
like should I walk into the
Eddie,
digs and cry
you
up
know
on the
how
sitting
that
room?
will help? Like, I have decided and made it a point in my life that I will teach my kids that it's okay to fail. That it's okay to fail and you can be able to stand up again. We are not
And
teaching
do
them
it
that.
again.
And do it again. Because they think failure. I failed. And when that video came out for Engage, the first person who I went and sat down and watched it with was my son, my firstborn son, to sort of explain, because that's the most authentic I could have been with him in explaining where I was, what I did, what I went through.
And why you missed out in his life.
And it helped a bit in now healing that wound that had caused in his life and also the brother's life. So it helped. And I just want to answer the bit about crying in front of your child. I think it's also decent to let your child see the dad handling his own emotions. I'm not saying
Thank you.
hide. I think it goes a long way, especially if it's a boy, to understand that we no longer need to be in a space where we keep on telling kids, men do not cry. Boys should not cry. Your son has just been hit by a tire outside when he was playing with his neighbors.
Kwa mwanaume.
We are not helping them to understand how to embrace their feelings, their emotions. And I think it's important to let them see what these things are.
Absolutely.
And stop being Superman. You're not Superman.
I keep telling Emmanuel
Yes.
that as a
So it's a
parent-
conversation you've had. Eh?
Yes, I keep
Tons.
telling Emmanuel.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good
I
thing.
He
keep
still
tell-
doesn't
Maybe I'm
believe.
from-
I keep telling Emmanuel that as a father who I will become, I plan to show my sons and daughters vulnerability.
Exactly.
That it's okay to be vulnerable. And I cannot speak about vulnerability without showing them that I can be vulnerable.
Exactly.
So this idea to be Superman that he wants to be,
Super
that
dad.
you cannot cry. I remember once my mother was crying about something I did. I think I was in class 6. And it really broke my heart. So I said to her, you know what? I started crying through the window because she shut me up. Mami, nakuona venye unalia na ila ni uchungu, Mom. So later on when we talked, I told her I will never ever get you through that pain.
Because you
I saw
understood.
what that pain did to me.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
if my mother can cry, if my father were around, why wouldn't he cry?
But we've moved
So
away.
crying ambassador, boss.
It's a good movement. And actually, it's
And
well
you need
done
a
to be
woman
touched.
patron.
we will be our own patron so that we can help us. But to make it a good thing to converse about it, let's normalize vulnerability
It's
to our
across the
children.
board.
Yes.
And let's do it in a guided way. And I really know I understand your concern, and I know a lot of us have been brought with that thinking that my dad, I never saw my dad
Yes,
cry.
exactly. Because
Yeah.
I was
But
imagining
we're in
if
a
my
different-
dad
the dynamics-
cries, I'd just dig a hole and
Yeah,
just
the
hide in that
dynamics,
hole.
the dynamics of
No.
how we were brought up
Yes.
then has changed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's what we are battling with, especially with the conversation about the boy child.
Eric, so unasema utalia kabisa.
No, I plan to really be vulnerable, and not
So
that
unajua
I
ni ambassador,
don't want to
chairman.
be. I'm not saying I'm not condoning being a wuss or a sissy, but I will cry when I need to.
Let's say you will embrace your emotions.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Nikitaka kulia napiga tu nduru cheki.
Hapo.
Hiyo kitu imenidunga roho.
Usilie hivyo pia. Wewe ni daddy.
94.4 Spice FM. We are the adults in the room. The lines are open. 0719012600. Lillian, I see you, and Victor. I'm going to come back and pick up some of your calls right now. But first, gotta listen to some J-Lo featuring some Ladies Love Cool James. All I Have. J-Lo, one of the people she dated is Sean Combs. I don't know what you gotta do to date this
Right
girl,
now, she's
man.
dating a younger man.
Already.
And she looks good for her age.
Just to show that I'm in touch with my entertainment news, I think the young man is one of his dancers.
Yes.
Yeah. So
any
J-Lo likes
Watch
dating
out,
those people
cheki.
who work for her.
Musione hizi
Mazee.
nini ndevu
Huyu
nafikiria.
jamaa anaitwa Eddy
that I
Kimani.
just
He's in
watched
touch.
Miss Vela.
He's in touch, man.
She's actually dating a Ben 10, in other words.
Let us enjoy some J-Lo. We'll be back before you can say.
Rumpelstiltskin.
LL Cool J went into acting, man, and I think he's made some good money there.
I was reading about LL Cool J, the way he
You know, he
walked.
cuts number 1, like you.
So he's a Catholic. He was born in New York City, and he grew up in the Queens. And when he was 4 years old, he walked into a room just after his father had shot his mother and his grandfather, nearly killing them both.
What?
That's very
So
horrible.
there was a
imagine the
pool
trauma.
of blood. Yeah. So he had a very traumatic childhood.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Sounds like the story about this other singer. What's his name? This other guy who sang Marvin Gaye?
Yeah, Marvin Gaye,
Yeah.
who was shot by his father.
Yes. Those black brothers go through
They
tight
go
stuff.
through the
man.
most.
If you were to
Black
go deeper
Americans.
into these issues, it's just that then the conversation of mental health was not
Yeah, I was not being had.
hard. And it was again the toxic
Yeah.
masculinity.
Yes.
You're just in New York the other day. I think I saw you.
2018, yes.
2018. You're doing a play.
Yes, on Broadway.
How did that go?
Tinga the musical.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, being led by Eric Wanaina. We had an
Yeah.
amazing, we did about 12 shows on Broadway.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. Amazing.
I was trying to
experience.
watch Fella by Jay-Z and Femi Kuti.
They produced it.
And they were asking me for $250. So I walked swiftly to a Burger King and ate a burger instead.
That's how big the theater. That's how big the theater business
Yes,
is. there.
it's
That's
very big in
25,000,
America.
and that is like the seat Z Huko
Yes,
nyuma
huko
for
nyuma.
$250.
Yeah. You had to, but then I was given the cheapest ticket.
Yes.
But I just
Yeah,
hope to-
Did you do those?
You need the binoculars for
Did
that.
you do those like calculations, like converting it into
20,000?
Yeah, of course,
1,000?
that's a lot of
check
money.
it to 50 times 100.
Silly.
I went and
I
had a
can't even afford the
polite,
binoculars because
yeah,
that's where you laugh. Great experience.
We are discussing men and mental health. The number to call is 0719 600.
Let's pick a few calls and then we'll go back to the conversation. Victor. Hello.
Yes,
Yes, Victor.
yes, good evening.
Good evening. How are you
Victor.
doing?
Hello, Victor.
I'm fine, Eric.
Yes, sir. Karibu sana, Victor Bana. What are your thoughts on today's topic, sir?
First of all, I think Kimani has a very rich history of whatever he went through. And there's a time he shared about when he was in Ukunda, when he was part of a team that oversaw some motorsport there. Fortunately, at that time is when I was first posted at Kwale Forest Station.
All right.
Yes, and the motorsport was rightly passing, I think, through Kwale town to Kunda and maybe to either side Tanzania. Then at that time, I also had some issues mentally. I was depressed in a way, in that my family, a young family, was in Homa Bay County, and I was newly posted to a new job in Kwale. And coincidentally, I think the only place I used to get solace was at Diani Beach during weekends. I would go there to Bidibadu. Yes, I think Kimani can relate that Bidibadu area.
Totally connect with you.
Yes, so I think I've really learned a lot from your history there.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Victor.
Yes, and I think it will maybe most of the youth and even adults in the same measure will get something to share and maybe to learn from.
All right, Victor. Thank you so much. Thank you for calling in and sharing those thoughts. You know, Eddie, sometimes I feel like many of us go through, mental health issues as we are pursuing
Happiness.
happiness, and that happiness is bundled in some sort of financial breakthrough.
It's connected.
But now you also look on the other side of the coin, and you see people like Anthony Bourdain, who was working like a dream job at CNN, and the same guy is committing, suicide. So, what do you think about this? Like you're pursuing finances, and this other guy is in a financially good position, maybe, and yet he's still having problems with mental health. It has nothing to do with
depression. Does not care about your money. Depression does not care how many children you have. Depression does not care what kind of a job you have. It does not care. And it has reached a point where even some men, when it comes to that moment of making that decision, I know of a case here in Kenya where somebody tried the first attempt, it didn't work. And it's somebody who was a high profile, very, very high profile, went to another county and took his life. But the first attempt didn't, and he took the harsh way out, which was to jump outside a window. So it does not know if you're a billionaire. It does not, and it doesn't care. And that's one thing that is so sad about depression, and especially if it's not countered by, of course, having the right care around you, you making that decision. It might be hard making that decision. Some are very lucky to make that decision to turn things around. Some have to use medicine. Some have to have the right people around them. So depression doesn't care, and anxiety. Yeah.
So what are the daily exercises? Like Eric is a ardent gymmer. So he tells us the way today he was doing burpees, what, like the daily things he does to build up his body. What are the daily things that a man can do?
Physical activity. For both
for
the
just
gents
to
and the ladies.
improve,
Physical
mental
activities, no matter what it is, if it's walking, jogging, are very important. But one thing that we also should have in the frame of our minds is that our mental health is and should be taken care of the way we also take care of our physical health and physical fitness. And mental health could be fall off along the way because they might not even know how to handle Eddy. They might not know how to deal with him. Yes, we were pals. We bought each other pints. We hung out. We watched sports. We watched football together. But it's no longer happening. Eddy went into this other tangent, which I feel... So I purposed to myself not to really take any qualms with either should I get angry with these guys who fell off along the way and let me out. There are a few of them who stood by me, and they are a handful. But now I know how to identify my authentic friends, even if there are just 5 of them. I know now how to and we know how to embrace each other.
You know, Eddy, I can almost feel your pain. Of course, not exactly what you felt, but you know, sometimes the media glamorizes you, and then there's a spotlight on you. So that whatever you are going through, which is human, Maya Angelou used to say, I am a human being, and nothing human can be alien to me. However, when you're in the media, you're sort of a different human being. In that people are saying, ona iki kimbuzi, uja mama zene hizi kashishe zake analala kwa sahi kwa nyumba ya mato, anachapa. So the danger then becomes, and I wanted to pick your brain on this, how much of you being a public figure should somebody be very much aware of, especially when you're dealing with the pitfalls of life? Because, Emmanuel, what was happening to you with your friends when the things that were happening to you, you had the luxury of privacy. But you are Eddy Kimani. You do not have the luxury of privacy. So you are here in Ukunda, somebody saying, bana, wewe si ni ule jamaa of TV. Na unanyonya hapa kashata.
Na unatembea.
Umetembea nimekufuata huku ukisweat.
That's the time you want the earth to open up and
swallow you.
And swallow you up. So I really want to pick your brain about what your thoughts are factoring the 15 years that you're in the media. What you knew then, what you know now, and if you're to talk to somebody in the media right now, in any sector that is in the public domain, what need they employ in their faculties or even their character traits that would then give them a benefit should something as unpleasant as what happened to you happens?
One of the key things that, of course, came also as a learning from that. Again, my era, the time when we got onto TV, there was no... The social media was not as strong as it is right now. So that has just compounded things for the current... It has made the problem
bigger and worse.
It's a bittersweet problem.
Yes.
Yeah, because then again, you need social media to be able to even to do your work.
Absolutely.
So then we didn't have the benefit of... or I think maybe we were lucky. We didn't have... So we were held in very high esteem. We didn't have these outlets just... Now, every other day, there's a headline of what a certain popular news anchor has done. So that becomes a story. Then we were put up in a very, very, very high pedestal, which made us also look as, kings and queens. So the problem here was that...
Eddy, I want you just put those 3 dots. You know those 3 dots?
So
that's where you pause and then you come back. And I'm sure guys are, listening keenly. We're going to continue this conversation all the way till 10 o'clock. And at 9, I'm going to open up the phone line 0719012600. You have to call in.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Sugar and spice and everything nice.
Spice up your life. They are smart, they are funny, and unfailingly entertaining. They are the adults in the room, and they are here to help you be the best adult you can be. Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not. The adults in the room will help you stay winning. 95 94.4 Spice FM.
Shout out to
Nairobi.
people. You're listening to 94.4 Spice FM right here in the capital city. The city is going on really well.
Did
Despite,
you just say city?
Yeah, Sini City. Unajua governor lazima tusimsahau.
City.
So big shout out to everyone in the capital. It's not raining. It's quite dry now, which is a good thing. At least some of us who live in the suburbs, like in Kitengela, our cars can actually be clean.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I come from Kitengela and get to the office and guys are like, "Ima tope yote.
Umetoka wapi?"
Wewe unaishi wapi bana? So now
And
we are
then sometimes
enjoying.
it's dusty.
But shout out to the guys who live in town, Eric, and the rest of the guys. Like
Watu wa kuishi kwa
big shout out
building,
to
tunaongea.
you.
I'm not saying anyone.
Exercise kupanda stairs, eh?
Nakwambia. They're
88th
telling us
floor.
88th. I'm
you
working
say you
out.
have to shukisha other people so that you guys feel good about yourselves. That is a shame.
1 minute past 9 o'clock. We have a special guest today, Mr. Eddy Kimani, who's taking some time to hang out with us here in the studio. And Eric, you said you had some action on Twitter.
Absolutely. Remember, if you're joining us, a warm welcome to you. It's always fun to have you on board, and you've made the right choice. Thank you so much for choosing Spice FM. A quick reminder that we are not only on audio, but also on visual. You want to be part of that big treat by simply going on your phone or your PC and clicking www.spicefm.co.ke, so you can not only hear Emmanuel and Barbara, but also get to see Eddy as he's expressing himself. Today, we are speaking about men and mental health. And look, apart from calling 0719012600, we like to read your feedback about where you're listening from and what your thoughts are on the conversation. And I see the tweets coming in very, very quickly. Dennis Washira says, taking notes, and I'm learning not to ever judge. Thank you so much, Dennis. Wiseman says, a very inspirational story. Eddy, you truly are inspirational. We thank you so much, Wiseman. Berry Logola says, listening to the Kimani story, I'm tuned in. A very, very good evening to you. Barbara, anything you're hearing from
I'm
Facebook?
hearing we have Ray Audio says, I have been there. I felt so caged and alone, attempted suicide, but now I'm okay and recovering. It was not easy. Thank you very
Who
much.
is that?
Ray Audi.
Ray Audi, congratulations.
Yes. Then we have Edwin Magoha who says, I'm tuning from Tasia. I'm learning a lot. We have Juliet Cesaro says, very engaging. Thank you for this conversation. It's important for you to heal a soul out there. And Madego Shkokoti, welcome back. He talks about toxic masculinity. It comes down to the way males are brought up. They are taught to be strong and quiet. This model of masculinity may be why men are more likely to be under symptoms of depression. And Lesajo Matthew says, hey, I grew up with Eddy Kimani hapo Nax. Please holler at him.
Shabe massive.
What was
Shabe, what was Shabe?
But
Nice one, Lesajo.
Eddy pia mimi ni msee wa Nax, eh?
Wapi? Nax wapi?
Nilipoa freehold kidogo tukaenda huko Kiti.
Huyu ni wa Nakuru. I was actually asked purposely so that
kila mahali.
Huyu ni wa kila mahali.
Nipata sasa hii Kiricho akikuja atakuwa.
You need to see the world.
He's really moved.
You need to see the world even if it's in your country.
Yes, you totally have to travel.
Eddy hata mimi nilikuwa Nax kiasi.
Sikupita ukienda nini?
Huyu alikuwa
ukienda Njoro.
Useme mahali
Ulikuwa
ulikuwa.
section 58 tuko Sinjoro.
Ulikuwa Njoro.
Ulikuwa
So ulisema ulikuwa Njoro.
58.
Kuishi ama kupitia?
Kuishi nilikuwa Lions.
Aya, alright.
Lions.
good.
Ulikuwa hapo for 2 months.
No, standards nilifanya Lions.
Mpaka ulisema Lions, unasema Lions.
Nasema Lions.
Lions.
That's how you pronounce.
Academy.
Good to know Nakuru Massive
are-
is well represented
Nakuru
here.
is well represented. So before we went on a break, Emmanuel, I was saying that sometimes when you're in the public domain, you're treated more harshly because the spotlight is on you.
Yes.
So it becomes even harder to deal with some of these very glaring faux pas about normal things that happens to everybody everyday life.
But it's just that you've been exposed
You've been
Yeah,
exposed.
and people connect with you at that level.
Yes.
You are this guy
And
there.
some are even worse than yours, but now yours is just
Yeah, you're
out
there.
there.
And Eddy, you're giving a good scenario about social media and your time
Yes.
not having social media. So yeah.
Yeah, that's I think one thing that we had. But what in turn that did, it just our pedestal was more elevated because we were seen as this.
In a different hierarchy.
Yeah, and I think now what came to play after I went through what I was going, or when I was going through what I was going through, had a lot to do with I can't hide. I cannot walk around and just have a normal as you said, just for somebody who's not been in that position, they could be going through. And that's why I said in the beginning, my story is not very unique.
Absolutely.
It's just that now has been compounded by the fact that I spent 18, 15 years in media. So I'm already in people's mind. I'm already in people's...
living
You have seen children grow.
Yes, you know. So I had to deal with that. Yeah, and I'm lucky there was no social media. Actually, I'm lucky that it was not as big as it was
you
there.
actually really are, because I think
But you see, what now makes it worse is the fact that now you've been elevated, because we were sort of a mystery. I would actually live my life without...
It's like
really,
you're untouchable.
yes. Right now, it's a different story on the flip side. So there's a lot of dealing with that. So in terms of advice right now, I think the best advice I would give anybody who is in that situation, a couple of words. Humbleness is very important. Because what happens is that when you get elevated and you're given this sense of power, and because it's almost as having control of something,
Absolutely.
over who you are, and commanding attention here and there, and that can get to your mind. It got into my mind. Yeah, when you have people opening doors for you, when you have people calling you by your first name, as if you know each other, you know, but you do not know them, but they feel
they know
we
you.
own you. You are one of us. But on my end, I'm feeling okay. I do not know. I'm even shaking hands. I do not know you very well. But that's in my mind right now.
And they don't understand. Hey, what's your number? You want to change.
So you also have to learn how to be, being
humility.
humble. Humility is
Yes.
very important, especially in this day and age. Because once you're knocked off, you have more to deal with now in terms of how you've been exposed, how people know you, how many followers do you have. So that means your story will spread faster. People will get to know more about the things that you did wrong. So it just compounds everything for you. Cutting down your egos. Huwa tunamea pembe sana. Ati wewe ni news anchor, wewe ni news presenter, wewe you're a radio personality. You jina personality and celebrity does definitely get in the way of just living a normal life. So humility and just putting away ego and doing what you're supposed to. Just do a good job. Let people respect you, and just do the right thing.
For your craft. I always say that anybody in the media is akin someone who works at the bank, but in front of a camera. It's just a job.
Yes.
I don't know why people assume that now, because you're hosting a radio show, that now you are important and you have an
It's a
exaggerated
job.
sense of because it's just a job.
It's personality complexity. Let me put it in that space. Yeah. So it gets into you, and you feel you deserve this kind of treatment. You feel entitled, and you should be doing the opposite. You should be the one serving.
Absolutely.
There's something you said which was very powerful about not like you don't hold it against any of your friends.
Yes.
And in this, talk about men and mental health. How do we, we are outside looking in? So how do we as men deal with, what ideas would you have in regard to how we as men should deal with friends who are going through crisis?
Well, it could start by having interest about your friends, and not interest about where we're going to have our next beer, not having interest of where we're going to watch the next Formula One race. But you could go deep down to the point where you need, and there are ways of doing it. How you engage your friends. And if these are really your friends, you will know it. And now, of course, a lot of things in life happen in hindsight. That's when now you realize, this should have been this way. But I believe being able to be more concerned and being more authentic with your friends, it will help us men. But it goes more than that. We also need to be able to reciprocate to it. Because I might be a very, very good friend to you, and I'm concerned about you, but you do not want to open up. And there's no way I'll be your friend and you're going through something, and if I'm honest with myself as your friend, not want to help you if you're not opening up and being open. And that's why the conversation about being in touch with your emotions.
Yes.
I'd want to see a man cry if he really feels like crying. Unfortunately, we live in a world where men show emotions in two scenarios. You could tell me if there's another one. I've only seen men crying at a funeral and during a sporting event.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I was
Think about it.
I was thinking about maybe when their child is born.
at a funeral. Well, that could be another one. But you see, you could count that also on your.
You know, I baptized myself as the crying ambassador.
Yeah.
And what my
Well
duties
done,
are
well
is
done.
to try and embrace and bring more men into crying. Emmanuel doesn't like it much.
Emmanuel gets upset.
No, I was thinking maybe-
he comes from the school of stoicism.
No.
And I keep trying to.
Watu wa kukosa kujipaka
but let me-
mafuta.
I
No,
keep
saying-
trying to.
but let me
don't
ask
be
you-
afraid. Eddie's not going to whoop me.
But let me ask you then, the two gentlemen, why do we have emotions then? Why do we have feelings?
This is the scenario I normally paint for these guys.
And he
I
paints
was
a
saying-
weird one.
I was saying maybe you can cry in private because if your children happen to see you crying in the sitting room, it'll
No, but
So
it's about
what?
man
So
to man.
what?
It be taken care of by just being self-compassionate to yourself. We need also to worry about ourselves. We need to take care of ourselves, our well-being. Self-care is very important.
Yes.
You know, Eddie, I'm a huge proponent of self-care. I love myself through and through and through.
Totally, it's very
One
important.
of the things I do on Saturday nights, I love chai latte.
Chai
So I
latte.
go at around 12:30 a.m. when places are quiet in a restaurant on Gong Road
He's
near my
nocturnal.
house.
Wow.
Then I just sit there quietly and then think about my thoughts with chai latte. So I think that's very important. Manu, why are you laughing? So I think it's very important. And before you came in on the show, I was talking about how it's important that before you expect respect, you first have to respect yourself.
It starts from there.
I have a bunch of people I used to know, I'd call them acquaintances, who would pride themselves in drinking day in, day out, day in.
It becomes a
Right.
cycle.
And then now we had a conversation with one of the bunch of guys, and I said, so how much of this is viable and actually even healthy? Leave alone to even just your physical body.
And
to you,
sustainable.
Yes, so you've drunk on Monday and you're very happy. Tuesday you drank again. Wednesday, and it's not like it's just these keeping up with the Joneses. So I said, wouldn't it be better in the state of drinking this hectically that maybe you take some time off and just take care of yourself? That's why, again, a lot of male men frown upon things like a man going for a massage because they're like, kwani wewe ni mwanamke? But those are good things for self-care.
Yeah, true. But Eric, have you thought about that? Now, just when we're talking about signs of depression, even that over drinking could be a sign.
Absolutely.
Let me describe it
And
for
the
you.
use of drugs.
To some, which I also am a victim of it. When you're in this space, when you're depressed and everything has just collapsed around you, you look for coping mechanisms.
Yes.
And these coping mechanisms can be anything. It's not only alcohol. Coping mechanisms can go to the extreme. You know, some of them, I wouldn't want to mention them on air here. It's not just, you see, right now the first thing we think about is alcohol, but that's the most general escape that
Or
a lot of
even
people...
illicit sex.
Yeah.
It
Illicit
could
sex.
go. That's another coping mechanism
Yeah.
for somebody who's got anxiety or somebody
yeah.
who's depressed, and they might be not. They're not doing it deliberately. They are thinking they're just dealing. They're just satisfying a
An
need.
urge.
But what they're fighting are some different type of elements that, for them, that seems like it's the only way to calm things down.
Yes.
And that's why self-compassion is very, very important.
Absolutely.
You know, why should we focus so much on our physical health, and yet our mental health, if it's not right, then we will not even be able to balance it out with what we want to achieve physically. That's why I'm also a very big proponent in believing we also need to change the narrative of how we understand well-being and
Yes.
change the narrative around mental health. Because when you talk about mental health, I think you mentioned it too, when you talk about mental health, you immediately think,
Mental
we are
Madhare.
kona kichaa, you think of
Amegoroka.
Mathare, you know, and which is a very important institution in this country
Yes.
right now. You have a dark description on it. We don't have anything aspirational
Yes.
to tell
And then
you
we think
aspire
yes.
about you taking care of your mental health. The way you walk into a gym and you see a poster of a built guy with a six-pack, you tell yourself, I want to look like that. Why can I not see a photo of, for example, Eliud Kipchoge somewhere and say he's an aspiration to the kind of mental health or mental well-being that I want in my life.
Yes.
So we have so much to do in terms of turning around this conversation from creating and building our self-compassion, being able to have proper self-care, understanding that it starts with you, so that you can even be able to connect with somebody else at the same level.
Yes, there's a saying in my mother tongue that I'll just translate it that says, not all mad people are in the nut house.
Exactly.
We have many of us who are dressed.
Exactly.
and are still within us. Yeah, so we
they're
call them,
managing it.
yeah, we call them malarukitsingubu. Yani you're dressed, but you're nuts. So majority of us always assume it is that particular person in that
The
institution.
guy collecting
who's
plastic
yes,
cups.
the dirty guy,
The
or
dirty
yes,
guy.
or the street urchin. But it is us. It is one of us. We just need to look, because majority of us are doing those maladaptive coping mechanisms just to hide. It's like a facade, and you wouldn't know what is happening to them.
True.
Alrighty, I'm picking a couple of your phone calls. 0719012600. Eddie is here for the next 29 minutes, so you have to take advantage. Lydia,
Yes, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Thank you, Spice FM. I'm very well. This is so important to keep our mental health healthy. We should... Hello?
Yes,
Hi,
I
hello.
can hear you.
We can hear you.
Should keep our frequent health. I mean, all the time, you are very right. We should say, I love myself. Look in the mirror and say, I love myself. Thank you, God. And keep us all safe. You know, like not naming any particular person. Keep us all safe.
True.
And give a laughter as often
Very
as
true.
possible. It helps to improve our mental health. Frequent laughter.
Very true.
It really helps. Many people want to kill themselves. And even I don't make a big long prayer at night. I just say, thank you, God. I love myself. Help me into a good sleep. One. I don't say it with my mouth, but I say it in my mind so that I don't allow any stories to build up in my brain. And I'm gone to sleep. Many people get drunk and take drugs to fall asleep.
To induce
Just
that.
saying one continuously in your mind without speaking it, you will be gone to sleep safely.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you, Spice
Thank you,
FM,
Lydia.
for your good program.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Lydia.
Lydia.
We always appreciate your phone call. Spice FM, hello. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Jackson.
Hello.
Yes, I'm Jackson.
All right, that connection is off. Spice FM, hello.
Hello, Spice FM, hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Turn off your radio, my
Please
brother.
reduce the volume of your radio or the
Yeah,
gadget till we have feedback. The nation needs to hear you.
Yes, sir. So talk to us.
This is Kevin from Mombasa.
Yes,
Hello, Kevin.
Nimekuwa nikisikiza hiyo station bwana.
Karibu, brother.
Asante sana.
Huyu jamaa si amepitia bwana.
Amefanya nini?
Amepitia. Huyu mgeni wetu wa leo.
Mgeni wetu amepitia kweli.
Uko na swali?
Mimi sina swali, lakini kenye nataka kusema imenigusa sana.
Asante.
Na pia kuna venye amenipatia motisha.
Asante, brother.
Na muendelee hivyo. Mi redio yangu imekwama tu hapo.
Na ibaki kwame papo hapo.
Hello, Oscar. How you doing, brother?
Oscar,
Oscar, network yake ni mbaya.
be louder.
Spice FM, hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Jackson. Okay. Let me take part.
All right, that connection is also off, man. Eddie.
Tons of tweets coming in, Eddie.
Yes.
There's a tweet here, Damascus moment. Wow, that was awesome.
Yeah.
As a mental health advocate who has gone through similar issues, all I can say is keep going. This is how we destigmatize mental health conditions in Kenya and the world at large. I have a gentleman here, no, it's a lady actually. Alicia Otiato says, how are you, Manu, Barbara, and hi, Eric. I am tuned in from Tasia, and
Nice.
I love this conversation. Thumbs up to you guys. Eddy Kimani from Eric Muriru, who says, Eddie, please invite them to Man Enough. I don't know if them is us. But,
There's a
Yes, the
lady in
two
the
of you.
building, but anyway, I'm the patron for that other
yes,
club.
and Deritu says awareness has improved and people out there are opening up and visiting necessary institutions.
True.
Without support, it's very difficult to cope with a mental health illness.
I'd like to mention something about support, but maybe when we get to
Yes.
another point.
So too many tweets coming in, and we love them. Keep them coming. Raphael Corey says, "I can't imagine I'm missing tonight." Oh, you're missing tonight's show because of technical issues. It's being sorted out, Raphael. But a very good evening to you, and thank you so much for all of you all who are sending your feedback. And Eddie is here again, as Emmanuel has said, for another maybe 25 minutes to pick and respond to the most of your feedback.
Where's Raphael? Is it in Eldoret?
Raphael is in Eldoret. Nderitu says, I wish the government would increase the funds set for Madare and referral hospital. Services have really improved and many are preferring to seek help there.
Do you think the...
A moment, Raphael, please tweet your exact location in Eldoret because we have other areas that have signal. Would like to know where exactly you're located.
Also, you don't have to miss if you have Tata Pandos.
Yes, Tata Pandos stock site here, please.
www.spicefm.co.ke. I know it's a huge commitment, but you can,
So
if you have
streamlined.
those bundles, you can www.spicefm.co.ke.
The other question, I don't know if I was seeing the direction you're going with that question.
Yeah,
Yes,
I had a
yeah.
question, but now I don't know if I've lost my line. of
Support from the
Support.
government. There was something very important.
Yes,
uh,
there's a
brought us
tweet here, and I like the tweet, that's why I read it. Nderitu, locally Nderitu says, I wish the government would increase the funds set for Madare referral hospital.
And
He says the services have really improved and many are preferring to seek help there. I think he's
Because-
talking
yeah.
about counseling. And,
Yes, they have more
and-
services
and that sort of
nowadays.
thing.
And then also do you think, Eddie, the education system, I know they've tried to change it, but do you think that also has an effect of the kind of people it's producing? Because like me who went through the regular 844 system, we're not very expressive. I remember there was once one of the kids in my class said, a carrot has seeds. And the teacher was I don't know what argument they were having with the teacher, but this guy said, the teacher said, carrots have seeds. And then this guy said, you're lying. And then the teacher was called Mr. Wanyama. So he said, I'm going to beat you up. You'll know why I'm called Wanyama. So he said punching him and, you know.
Unfortunately, that's the system. That,
Yes.
To answer you, of course, education falling right into the responsibility of the national government. We do have a mental health policy. Let's start
Yes.
from there because
Yeah.
the policy is what should help in implementing some of these things. My vision is to have not only to have counselors in these other private schools. Let's have counselors in public schools.
Yeah.
That would go a long way in addressing these issues from the root,
Yeah.
from the Tunasmanga in sports Tunasmanga grassroots. It will be good. The policy is there. It's a beautiful policy. The only problem is that it has not been implemented.
Yeah.
It's the policy of 2015-2030. The glimmer of sunlight, let me call it sunlight because I'm thinking it is some hope, is that the government at the end of last year put together a task force that has already started its work in collecting the public's views and opinions and what they think, or rather just want to include the public. Unfortunately, the way it's been handled at the moment, it's just that we do not have a lot of people who are directly affected by mental health challenges being represented in that task force. So it's an issue that I think needs to be addressed to be able to fully understand and wrap our heads around what can we do about mental health in Kenya.
Yes.
The initiative is brilliant, and if that is overlooked, we'll not be able to properly implement this policy and anything else that comes from that.
I
So
really hope it's implemented.
that's the hope. But unfortunately, they've already started. They were in Meru. They've been to, if I'm not wrong, in Nakuru. They're coming to Nairobi at the end of the month. It's a beautiful team. It also includes Dr. Jenga, for those who remember
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah,
Jenga
I
back in
remember
the
Dr.
days. He
Jenga,
was a
yes.
man who stood his ground for very many years, pushing the mental health
Yes.
conversation. But then again, it's really elevated to different status now, and it's good to see him involved. But it's just important to have players, including mental health advocates involved, caregivers, people who've had lived experience in mental health related issues, to be part of that conversation, even part of that task force. But more importantly, let's see where this goes. But it's something we need to voice, to have the advocate. We have very many advocates. I'm not the only advocate out here. There are quite a number of champions. And it's important to see what the government is doing, but it can do more by involving more people, those who are on the ground, those who are affected, to be part of that panel, listening to the public and what
To
they
be
want
the
to implement,
ambassadors.
to be the
Yes.
ambassadors.
Yeah.
Eric, I don't know if you've met these guys who went through IGCSE. I used to find them to be very expressive. Like they'd express what they're feeling.
The system is very
Yes,
friendly when it comes to that.
Yeah, so you'd meet a guy who, if you're, say, together in a workplace like this and something happens, this guy is very bold at expressing himself to, say, the boss. So he'd be like, no, I don't think that, you know. But this other guy who had
timid.
gone through 844 is timid because you've been drilled not to express yourself.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. I think parts of the challenges we have encountered as adults is how we were brought up. And thank
It
God
boils down to that.
Yes, and thank God for the internet age, because now you can teach yourself.
And we have taught ourselves a lot.
You can teach yourself how to
Julius
express
Yego
yourself
taught
better,
himself
you know.
javelin throw.
Yes, so you
Just
can.
by you, he's now champion.
And
Yes.
you can express yourself better, learn better, and dealing with people better, and so on and so forth. So not all is lost. If you are in a system that wasn't favorable, you can always acquaint yourself with systems that are more favorable.
And it's my prayer that the new system that we are introducing into the
CBC.
system, will be able to address some of these issues, because it starts from there.
Yes.
School, that 1-year-old and how he understands about embracing his how you do relate. It's not just about to calculate and crunch numbers. It's also how do you connect with your fellow pupil, fellow student.
And they also have the guiding and counseling sessions in that system, which is much better.
Exactly.
Because there are some certain public schools which did not
We
have.
might not we might not see the fruits of this right now, but I'm
Yes.
sure if that's the direction we are going, we might be at par, as Manu says, together with this IGCC. And we stand up, and of course being bold and being appreciative and embrace our,
and Emmanuel, coupled with the school system, even parenting speaks and a big part. How you effectively parent your children is a big role to play. I was listening to a podcast over the weekend, and this man was saying that as young boys we play with power toys, Superman, Batman. Young girls play with romance. So
play with dolls,
weddings.
we play
and so on.
house.
So how we begin, we end up, putting up the things we learned as infants, even boys, into marriage. Because now men only understand power, women understand romance, and then you clash. So you have this man who knows about Superman.
We need to mix it up.
But doesn't know about holding a woman when she's feeling emotional. He just wants her to fly on top of buildings.
Matthew.
Hello?
Sema Matthew.
Hi, how are you?
Talk to us, my brother.
I missed you guys so much.
Yeah, man, you've been AWOL.
I've been AWOL kiasi, but not by choice.
All right, Salami, I'm getting
Eddy.
Hello, Eric, how are you?
Matthew.
Matthew.
Matthew was Eddy was my schoolmate in primary school. We actually grew up in the same hood, Shabe.
Is it Shabe Massive?
Yeah, mimi nilikuwa nakaa hapo karibu Holy Cross Church.
Mambo vipi? That was by
Salama sana.
Pleasure,
Yes.
Pleasure, Matthew.
Now it's quite some story that you've shared.
Yeah, man.
And it's sad that out there people are going through challenges.
Oh yes.
Sometime in November, a friend of mine called me early in the morning. Told me that he feels he's reached the end of the leash because they were fired. Some 800 people declared redundant. Unajua ile unafutwa kazi bila notice.
En masse.
Oh yes. So I'm glad that he spoke out, because had he not
very important,
it would have been and this is the one guy I know who is quite reserved. He's the one person, he never talks about anything. Actually, the fact that he actually spoke out really got me, because when he told me he was at the end of his leash, I totally understood. Because here's a situation whereby you're in a family and you feel your wife would not understand that the income that you're enjoying and the good life
coming to an end.
Yeah, so
it's good to hear that. Actually, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to acknowledge the fact that you did something very important, which is to listen to him.
Actually, what I did is like I called him and I told him, unajua pale Tower 1.
Matthew, we have 15 seconds.
Actually, he was saying, he told me that he was contributing of throwing himself from Tower 1.
Wow.
And, we sat down for parking and we talked, and he got out of that decision.
You helped somebody.
And, talking is quite important.
Thank you for doing that.
Talking is quite important.
Very, very. Thank you, Matthew.
Matthew is a big friend of this show. He's one of our day ones.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Matthew
man,
Asante.
brilliant guy from
Nakuru.
Yeah, from
Well
Nakuru.
done.
Man. Nakuru is really
Well
doing
done.
well today on this show. We're going to be back with more conversation with our special guest, Eddy Kimani. We're talking men and mental health. And the ladies are also listening in, because I think most of these things work both ways. 45 minutes past 9 o'clock. Time flies, when you're having fun and you're having authentic conversations, which we'll be back with right now. 94.4 Spice FM. We are the adults in the room. I hope you're having a good time wherever you are. Eric, are you hearing anything?
I am hearing everything. Very good evening to you.
All right. You're saying you're hearing everything.
Yeah, I'm hearing everything. A very good evening to you, and thank you for the ride. We've been keeping it from 7 all the way. Eddie's having fun like you wouldn't believe it. And remember, if you're joining us, we are having a fantastic conversation. We are talking about men and mental health.
Yeah, man.
Men and mental health. What are
a
your
mental health moment right now.
Yeah, you're having one.
Embrace it. Embrace it. Embrace it.
Accept it, and you can even cry.
Eddie, I have a question.
Yes.
If I'm a guy out there, because time really flies on these shows, and there's so much information. Like you can't even compress. Like we've been speaking.
It just reminded me how I used to grapple with time when we used to run our sports
Those
show.
days.
Yeah.
But
And the way you have
it's never enough.
healthy conversations that you almost don't look at the clock. That's when you realize
Like,
when
oh.
the signs are up, or the producer is throwing the laptop at you. Can you just do your link? But I hear you.
Yeah. So do you have places where, as a man, I can run and get more information about mental health?
Now, with this direction that my life took, I have now purposed to make this a very important part of my life in terms of being a mental health campaigner, and more specifically help my fellow men in just understanding a little bit about their mental health and their well-being. So I've started an organization by the name of Mind Bright Resources, which is more or less handling or meant to create and facilitate safe spaces for men, and of course innovative spaces for men to engage and trust spaces that are trusted. Now, one of the offshoot of this company is called Brotherman Shave and Talk Initiative.
Brotherman what?
Brotherman Shave and Talk Initiative. So basically what it is, we want to collaborate with barbershops and barbers. Because this is one of the few, if not the only spaces that we have as men where our guards are completely down.
When we are sober.
Well, sometimes you might be convinced that you need a haircut just straight from the pub. But then again, we are very purposeful about this because we feel it's a space where men can have authentic conversations without being too judgmental. Already, we have very authentic conversations. We talk about sports and we get very emotional, even with your barber. Na mnaletana juu. We even have conversations about sports with the guy being shaved next to you, and you na mnaletana juu. But why not see how we can weave around this space and let one of the conversations be about our own mental health being? So what we want to do is hold hands with barbershops, hopefully around the country, using this initiative to be able to tell them, listen, you've got this amazing space here. Let us use this space in collaboration with you and advance this conversation for men in mental health and their well-being. Because it's the only place where I can comfortably sit with a man with a blade on top of my head and feel not threatened.
I feel safe.
Yeah, I trust my barber.
Yes.
And you've mentioned you have a barber you've gone to for almost 8 years. You it's like 20 years. And I'm just kidding. But we have, I'm sure the people who are listening, they have barbers they've gone to for almost 20, 15 years.
Yes.
That guy knows you so well. So why not train this barber and just make them mental health champions? We're not saying we're going to make these vinyoses psychologists or psychiatrists or counselors. These are just people who are going to be trained and made aware of how to identify somebody who might need an extra year just to listen to. Somebody who might need to get the right direction. Where do I go to? I'm stressed, I'm depressed. Who do I go to? So this initiative is basically to help set up that as an initiative across all barbershops. That's the dream I have, because it's a very important place. We meet there. Some men go there just to sit and have banter, which is okay, but it's a safe space. And we believe in whatever is talked about in that barbershop. So we'll also have talks when even normal days when you walk in and you find Eddy Kimani giving a talk in a barbershop. So don't be thrown off. But we want to have this conversation filling up this barbershops all over the country. It will not sideline football, it will not sideline the politics
But
as
it
much.
will just add on to that conversation.
But it will add on to that conversation because we have a very interesting fabric of how men engage inside the barbershop. So the barbershop Shave and Talk initiative, I would say it has officially started this week. We're already in talks with a couple of barbershops in the CBD to start engaging them and bringing them on board to hold hands and start getting men where at the core. We want to go to the men, not the men to come to us. We'll have the men's conferences, which is well and good. We'll have many engagements. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll have the real ones coming. But this will be just one of the directions that I would like to see the conversation of mental health, especially amongst men, going through. And the barbers will be trained how to listen, how to answer the questions the right way, because somebody is going through depression is very sensitive, very, very sensitive to anything. So it's not just about talking to them. How do you talk to this person who wants to understand how do I deal with my marital issues? You're not giving them solutions, but you're just pointing them to the right direction and also giving them that ear. Listen, I will tell you what to do. I have then we'll distribute cards that has contacts. The way we have cards for emergency numbers, so you'll have contacts of who to talk to, the psychiatrists, the facilities that deal with specific challenges, where you can go and get some help. So it's part of that. It will be part of that journey for that individual to get help. Yes.
Another guy who's come across my mind is that guy at the bar. You know, the guy at the counter, the
bartender.
He really listens to many stories from many people. You know.
So imagine if you mold that. That's also another way, another avenue, because men, we will never be vulnerable when we are outside our comfort. Because when you're in that barber's seat, you sometimes even black out.
And the one powerful thing you've said is you're not shoving solutions down the throat of.
No, and that's the last thing the person who's going through that needs. Yeah, just a listening ear, understanding, asking the right questions. And there's so much information. And one funny thing about mental health, it's one of the most or the best documented health issues in the world. Unfortunately, there isn't much embracing to it. So you can go online and get so much answers to your questions about how do you deal with your brother who's going through a mental issue. So don't feel left out when it comes to getting solutions of how to deal even with your own mental health. There's so much information out there. All it needs is just the interest to make a change and just also to help and listen now to other people.
Should we wait for the Eddy Kimani podcast too?
Under the same Mind Bright resource, there is a podcast planned. We are just doing the last final touches in terms of just molding it to make it purposeful. We just don't want to start a podcast, and because we want to do something that is sustainable. And this is, I'm in this for the long haul. As long as I'm breathing and I'm on this earth, I will do my bit.
Nice.
I'm in this for the long haul, and we'll try and use any avenue available to try and advance further. Because we can talk and talk and talk, but we need to start taking action on how we can now bring about these solutions, especially men. And men, we need to do this.
And how do I reach you if I'm a guy out there?
Right now, of course, I'm very particular about social media. As we all know, it's really a very powerful platform. On Facebook, the page is already up and running. Brotherman Shave and Talk Initiative.
Brotherman Shave and Talk Initiative.
Yes. And of course, through my own page, my DM is opened.
That's just Eddy Kimani?
Eddy Kimani, yeah.
Okay.
And I've not put a picture of a robot. It's my
Ni
mimi. So I'm available on Twitter, on Instagram, under using the same name. But for that particular initiative, we do have Brotherman itself also, because Brotherman is a vehicle now for the men agenda in terms of helping them with mental health. And I'm also focused on talking to employers through their companies by providing lived experience mental health training, where I collaborate with consulting psychologists. I collaborate with psychiatrists, where we come and do talks to your staff, because the workplace is another space that
Yes.
we need to start having employers understanding. You need to invest more in mental health and well-being in that office. You need to invest more in the caring about your... Because
Your staff.
companies are spending so much money on safety and security, which is good. It's fantastic. But health is also a good investment, and
absolutely.
well-being at the end of the day
Yes.
is very important
Absolutely.
across the board for your staff members.
It's been a dope conversation. Eric, unataka ku thank the guest.
No, thank you so much, Eddie, man.
Santi,
Thank
it's
you
been
so
a blast.
much. It's always a pleasure to find another mind, and thank you for sharing very transparently about your experiences. And now that we know better, we hope that you and I and Emmanuel are going to do better, especially in regards to mental health illnesses.
There is
Barbara?
no health without mental health.
Absolutely.
A mantra that I think is very important. Even you can put it on your...
There's no health without mental health.
Yes.
For me, I'll say it, I've learned from Eddie that we need to push the message across, and we need to be open to ask for help, whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, and also not only for yourself, for your
yes.
loved ones.
Kabisa. Manu, allow me 3 seconds. Another solution or a direction I think that would help this country and the world, if we have our leaders talking about their mental health, it would go a long way.
Yes.
A CEO waking up in the morning and saying, I went through these tribulations. I am in touch with the problems I'm with, and I understand what you're going through. Leaders need to start talking about
To be
mental health.
champions.
You've
To be
heard it.
champions. Leaders, the
You've-
leaders.
You've heard it, man. Thank you so much, Eddie. Once again, this conversation can go on and on. I just want to wish you a good night. Tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a good night. Music all night long.